Well, that hardly looks like the beginning of a successful car theft operation, does it? But it was. At least it was the beginning of an almost successful operation. Of course, at the time, we here at State Police Headquarters weren't concerned about the wreck. That happened to the north of us. But if you're curious about it, a man named Gregory Taylor was driving the car, and he was killed in the accident. Incidentally, he owned the car. But let's take a look at the file in this case. Then we'll have a better idea of how the whole story fits together. The car theft racket is one of the major problems facing law enforcement today. It's costly, widespread, and complex. In 5 years, over 1 million cars, worth more than $1 billion, have been stolen, one every 2.5 minutes, and often by professional, well-organized, smoothly operating rings. Their method of theft, concealment of identity, and sale of stolen cars sometimes defy imagination. Take the method used here, for instance.
You have just witnessed the first steps in a typical ring operation. They've got a natural front here, a good going gas station, and they're doing all right. Must have an angle, that's what the competitors say, and they're right. The salvage racket often begins at a junkyard. It's easy enough for a member of the ring to buy a wreck from the junk dealer, just has to give his name or the one he's using at the moment. Then he says he's in the repair or rebuilding business. This is Arnold Logan, occasionally calls himself Blake. He owns the gas station you just saw, and he's looking for a car, a special car. But it's no problem. He already knows the car is there, knows just what he wants. After all, he just stole one exactly like it. Now, it's easy for Logan to get a certificate of title or a registration. They usually accompany the purchase of a salvaged car. That gives him an important part of what he needs. Now he's got his serial number. And he gets his motor number. From now on, Logan's problems are purely mechanical. Of course, if all he needs is a bill of sale, certificates of title aren't so important. But he has documentary evidence of ownership. You can see it, right there in his hand. And he needs it if he's going to sell the car in any state with a title law. Now they're ready to go to work. Blackford is grinding off the old engine number. Logan is on hand to make sure everything goes just right. Woodbridge is getting rid of any identifying papers. Changing the serial number on the doorpost. Tearing off any lubrication stickers. Just cleaning up in general. Now for a new set of tags. Sometimes a fraudulent application will accomplish this, or maybe they were just stolen. In any event, they will change the identity of the stolen car.
Well, Logan and his gang seem to be doing a thorough job. No mistakes yet. Motor numbers changed, serial numbers changed, tags are new, and there's a certificate of ownership to prove that everything is just the way it should be. And now, with the identity change complete, the doctored stolen car is ready for market.
Even the best organized car theft ring must take some calculated risks, and crossing a state line is one of them. Up to this point, the entire matter was purely a local issue. But that last half mile gave the FBI the power and welcome opportunity to join with local, county, and state law enforcement agencies. Now the odds against Logan are just that much shorter. Here at this busy, bustling automobile auction, Logan's odds were much better. There were many people here whose only purpose in being around was to buy cars. And Logan can sell at any price. It wasn't much trouble for Logan to sell Walter Thompson a bill of goods. Oh, Thompson wasn't stupid. He read the registration certificate all right. 1956 Chevrolet Club sedan, motor number, serial number, previous owner Roger Brown of Springfield. Thompson knew it was an out-of-state car. It was all right there in black and white. Yes, Walter Thompson looked the whole deal over very carefully. Then he drove off to Thompson Motors, used cars with a pedigree, 100 miles further south. And Arnold Logan drove north to get another car for another customer. Well, Walter Thompson did all right. He'll be able to make something on this deal if he doesn't look too closely at the pedigree. Yes, Walter was pretty pleased with himself. Made himself a real good deal. Only now read it over and see how good. Looks legal enough, but what about checking the numbers? Of course, he should have done that earlier. But he didn't when it would have counted most, at the auction. So Walter Thompson went to the back of his lot just to make sure. Oh, the motor number checked out all right, just as it should be. Except it wasn't all right. It was too clean, too new. Right there, Walter decided, and quite rightly, that the police might be interested in his problem. Maybe right at the moment he wasn't aware of how important speed in reporting was. But Walter didn't allow this lack of knowledge to interfere with his activity. He called the State Car Patrol immediately. It just so happens that when Thompson's call came through, Lieutenant Kelly had a visitor, an FBI agent who frequently contacts the state police on business of mutual interest.
Yes, Mr. Thompson. We'll be right over. Looks like a stolen car case, John. And if it is, I think the FBI is going to be in on it. Out-of-state registration.
Then I'd better come along now, Ed. If you're right, it'll save time and a telephone call later.
Well, we could certainly use that extra hour or two. Let's go.
After a few words with Thompson and a quick look at the papers, both Kelly and the FBI agent knew. The out-of-state business was about all the information they could gain from the certificate of ownership for the moment. But they hadn't expected much more. A clever ring doesn't usually make obvious mistakes on the documents of ownership. But a careful examination of everything prevents overlooking something. Their next step was to take a look at the car itself. Of course, the obvious discrepancy was the one that first caught Thompson's attention. The motor numbers had been altered. The surface there was too clean, and there were definitely grinding marks. This was Logan's first mistake, and it was the one that aroused Thompson enough to call in the state police. For Lieutenant Kelly and the FBI agent, it was the first break. Now they went over the car in detail, from the outside first, especially for fingerprints. But professionals are usually pretty careful about leaving obvious evidence around. This was no exception. Certainly no fingerprints. No personal papers or articles, not even an old newspaper. No scrapes or bruises they could gain any information from. But they couldn't take anything for granted. Even an old newspaper dateline could furnish an important lead. The second break came when they checked the serial number plate on the doorpost. Usually these are spot welded on at the factory. This one was attached by 2 screws. Not necessarily proof of alteration, but significant. Lieutenant Kelly then had the mechanic take the car over to the State Car Patrol garage, where they could give it a detailed examination. At the State Car Patrol garage, they went over the car a second time, just in case they'd missed something. They hadn't. But they located the confidential serial number, and now had all the background material needed to start putting the pieces together. The immediate problem now was to find the true identity of the car and owner.
Well, at least we have something to go on.
Enough, at least for the moment. You mind if I use your phone?
Of course. Help yourself.
This is Swanson. Give me Mr. Fletcher, please. You know, Kelly, we've got just about all the information we really need right here. Oh, Frank, this is Swanson. Say, I've been making a check on a stolen car with Lieutenant Kelly. Would you mind making a check on these numbers for me, please? Tag number 135-488. Motor number OIO 9641. T as in Tom 56F. Serial number B56-123434.
These facts are always the basic takeoff point in tracing a stolen car. And since speed is essential, the FBI is at the service of local law enforcement agencies in this tracing function. They could have, of course, sent the entire motor block to the FBI laboratory in Washington. That way, through various techniques, they could have brought out the original motor number. But Kelly and Swanson felt they had enough to go on without that. Even though tags are usually stolen or have been issued on the strength of fraudulent applications, they may still lead to valuable information. Therefore, they made their first check with the Department of Motor Vehicles in the state of issuance. If the tags had been stolen, they might get a lead from the true owner. If fraudulent papers were involved, they can be submitted for latent fingerprints examination, handwriting, and other document analysis by FBI expert examiners. Again, even though motor numbers and serial numbers have been altered, they are still valuable in tracing the true identity of the car. Since all theft alarms are usually filed by either motor number, serial number, or both, a record check is made with the local police and with the state police agencies in surrounding states. While Fletcher was running down the information Agent Swanson requested, Swanson returned to his office. From there, he got on the phone and checked with the nearest division of the National Automobile Theft Bureau for stolen reports on file. They said they'd check and call back. The manual for identification of automobiles told him the model, year, type, and where the car was assembled. This was accomplished by using the confidential serial number as a key. By the time Swanson got back to Lieutenant Kelly's office, he had most of the information they'd need.
How's all yours?
Just fine, thank you.
That's good. Glad you got over, John. I made impressions of the altered numbers and got them off to your laboratory, just in case this is a ring we're dealing with.
Good. Looks like this is an addition we'll want in the National Automobile Altered Numbers file. And incidentally, we're beginning to get some answers to all those teletypes, too.
Oh? What's up?
I just got a reply on the altered number. No stolen report. Car belonged to a man named Taylor. His wife said he was killed in an accident. His insurance company handled it from there. And I think we better get over and have a talk with them.
Sounds good. Let's go.
Their first check was with Taylor's insurance company. They had paid Taylor's widow a total loss claim, and the two investigators wanted to find out what had been done with the wreck. In many cases, these companies send reports to the National Automobile Theft Bureau for filing. It helps against the future possibility of fraud. This company hadn't, but they finally found the name of the salvage dealer who bought the wreck. The next stop was the salvage yard, and Hansen, the owner, was more than happy to cooperate. He told them he felt a lot of legitimate dealers like himself were getting a bad name through this salvage racket. He said most of them would like to help, but they didn't know how they could do anything themselves. Both Kelly and Swanson told him he could help if he'd report any unusually large number of purchases to an individual or group, especially when he didn't know them or why they were buying. He gave them his sales records to go over, and they found what they were looking for. Arnold Blake's $75 investment was beginning to pay off, but not for him. During questioning, Hansen said Blake was a regular customer. He said he'd often noticed Blake only recorded the motor number, took the serial plate and ownership papers. Then sometimes it was weeks before he ever picked up the salvage. He said the Chevrolet was still there. Swanson and Lieutenant Kelly went over to take a look at it. It was the car. The motor number checked that out. But there was something else there that looked good. A few grimy, well-defined fingerprints. Yes, the case was just about complete. Getting a report on the fingerprints would be only a matter of a few hours. Then they checked the serial number plate just to be certain. It was gone. For Swanson and Kelly, getting the rest of the necessary information was mainly a matter of routine investigation. A check of the neighborhood revealed that Logan usually had a large number of late-model cars around, most with out-of-state tags. His neighbors thought it particularly strange that he had such a large proportion of garage business.
Well, that ended it. We had all the information we needed, and we got it the only way it can be gotten. Through careful examination, swift tracing of stolen cars, intelligent investigation, and close cooperation between all levels of law enforcement. That's the only answer to the professional car thieves, America's most expensive form of larceny.
Of course, we still had to get Blake, or Logan as we identified him through our fingerprint check. But now, with the evidence we already had, that was the least of our problems. A junkyard record showed that several cars purchased by Blake were being used as a source for altered motor numbers. Further investigation proved these to be stolen cars. From photographs of Logan, or Blake, both the junk dealer and several used car dealers who bought stolen cars identified him. The U.S. attorney authorized prosecution, a federal complaint was filed, and a warrant was issued. That's how it was done by one ring. But that was only a single factual instance. In this far-flung larceny, professional car thieves operating in carefully organized, smoothly functioning rings are the greatest challenge to America's law enforcement agencies. But every scheme contrived by these crooks can be unraveled by quick, intelligent police action. Somewhere along the line, the cleverest ring will blunder. A clumsy sale, a mistake in ownership papers, or a botched job in altering identification numbers. Any one can be the fatal mistake. But probably most effective is just plain vigilance on the part of used car dealers and buyers. A thorough check at the point of sale saves everyone time, trouble, and expense.